Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. Today I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay cast. And while it is another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay cast, it is going to be a bit different. It's not the usual sort of pro replay cast that I sometimes do. I saw a match and I just knew I had to cast it. It is a Protoss versus Terran on the map Abyssal Reef, but you might see the two player names here. We actually have Avilo versus RotterdaM here. I saw this replay online and I just knew that I had to cast it. So without further ado, spawning up in the top left hand side of the map, sorry about that, it is the red Terran player. It is Avilo. Not really on any team, I guess, just representing his own stream. And then spawning down the bottom right hand side of the map, the blue Protoss player, it is RotterdaM. RotterdaM, I think, is technically on Team Root, but I think that might just be a name or whatever. It's not like he's a full-on player for them or anything like that. So, these two are basically caster, well, not caster personalities. They're personalities in the Starcraft 2 scene. Well, RotterdaM's caster, Avilo's a streamer, and, well, I guess RotterdaM casts a fair bit too. And while it's not like a full-on pro match, I think it could actually be quite a close one here. Avilo is a player to sort of march to the beat of his own drum, I guess, do whatever he does in his own unique way, and then RotterdaM's just another player who likes to sort of play his own unique way. So we're going to see how it works out. Avilo, I'm not sure if you saw that bit of talk about Protoss at the start of the game. So Avilo's a player who is known to go mech, so I assume that's what this game's going to be, and we're going to see how it matches up versus a Protoss's mech. Isn't exactly known to work versus Protoss, but we're going to see how well Avilo can attempt to make it work. Avilo actually coming in with a scout here, just seeing the Nexus, seeing how RotterdaM's opening up. RotterdaM getting a second gas, Stalker opening here, and actually going out with a probe here, so it looks like he might be going for a Stargate. He hasn't thrown down a pylon yet, so maybe this is to proxy a Twilight Council, or it could just be for a delayed scout or something like that to dodge a Reaper here. Now, Avilo actually opened up with a large amount of gas at the start. He went for, I believe it was a gas first, into a quick second refinery. Terrans are sometimes opting to open up like this. RotterdaM actually losing that probe to Avilo's Reaper, so Avilo is scouting around, so it's a good thing that RotterdaM didn't proxy anything. And so Avilo's just getting up a factory. He's getting up a starport. It looks like it's going to be a mine drop here. Now, RotterdaM has opened up Twilight Council, so he won't actually have any detection out yet for such a super quick mine drop like Avilo's going for. Or it could just be a defensive Widow Mine. RotterdaM actually needs to be careful. He's moving up with his Stalker. He could lose it to the Widow Mine, and he actually does. The Widow Mine kills off the Stalker there. The corpse goes flying to the moon there. This map's actually underwater, so basically any units that die sort of have different physics here. So we have a second Widow Mine coming out for Avilo. I guess he's playing a bit of a defensive mine style into a drop later on, keeping one Widow Mine back to defend from oracles. So Avilo's got a very late second command center here, but he is going to try and get some counter damage done. Killing off that Stalker early on was very nice. I guess RotterdaM not exactly expecting a Widow Mine at the top of the ramp here. Little tech lab for Avilo. He's likely going to go into a Raven. I assume that's sort of his signature unit if you're familiar with Avilo. And here comes out the first Raven. Now, Ravens, it's not just a joke to use Ravens. I mean, there was a time in which Ravens were really, really good in Heart of the Swarm. Then there was a time in which they were really, really bad and never used in Legacy of the Void. But now we're sort of at this point in which Ravens are a unit that can certainly be brought out. Their auto turrets deal an absurd amount of damage, so I'm sure Avilo's going to try to make that work somehow. But here comes in the drop for Avilo, just flying right on into the base. RotterdaM just dropping. Mothership Core is out of position for RotterdaM. Probe is pulling up. One Widow Mine burrows, just shoots one probe. The other Widow Mine connects with the probes, and now RotterdaM did get a Robobay. He got out an Observer. The two Marines dropped, but the Medivac is going to go down, so that all of this drop gets cleaned up for RotterdaM for the cost, I believe, of 2 probes. It's a very good defense by RotterdaM there. So Avilo, he's not in the best spot right now. I mean, he's going to be going for his own thing. And oh, this is actually different. I guess it was sort of expected that Avilo would go mech here, as, I mean, when you think Avilo, it's mech. My mistake for thinking that. He's actually going for a bio, a very quick +1 attack. 2 more barracks on the way, so he's getting out a siege tank. He's got out this Raven. I guess he can use that to defend, maybe harass later on. Avilo confirming there's no third base. Meanwhile, RotterdaM is going for double forge. RotterdaM's a player who likes to focus on the gateway units, I believe, from watching his stream now and then. So we might see charge coming out of him. That's sort of his signature thing here. Just another observer coming out, and RotterdaM looking to secure this third base. The SCV is actually going to delay it just a second here. The Stalkers are going to move out, and RotterdaM reveals to Avilo that he did get blink there. Avilo completing that wall up. RotterdaM really sees all that he needs to see with this observer. He sort of sees one siege tank in a bunker, but there's another up in the main base for Avilo playing it safe. Now we have Stimpack, Combat Shield on the way for Avilo here. And now he's swapping that Starborn and Factory, so he's going to start getting out that Medivac, and he is going to go into Bio here, so it could be some sort of push. And we actually see the Stalkers poking a little bit for RotterdaM here. Stalkers eating a few Siege Tank shots, so Siege Tank's amazing at pushing back Stalkers these days. And now even the Observer being pushed back. For all RotterdaM knows though, this might be mech coming out of Avilo. But regardless, it seems RotterdaM's opting towards this double forge charge lot style. He's getting up his third base here. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. Charge lots are not to be underestimated. They're not exactly a core unit in the meta here, and Avilo even going for a very early sensor tower here. I guess wants to be safe in case the Blink Stalkers over RotterdaM try to poke up. RotterdaM might just sort of try to make Avilo paranoid with these Stalkers here, possibly try and fake a blink up. But no, there's not even any high ground vision for RotterdaM, so he can't actually blink up there. So we see Stimpack on the way for Avilo here, more Marines on the way, and I don't think RotterdaM seen the core of Avilo's army, so he's not aware that there's a large amount of bio here. If you're thinking about just what Avilo is known to do, you'd think he's trying to make some sort of weird mech work versus Protoss, but no, he's actually just gearing up to what looks like a large bio push. He's up on supply over RotterdaM. RotterdaM Stalkers are sort of at the front poking here, and RotterdaM's actually going for a very quick fourth base here. Now this might be a bit of a punishment for RotterdaM, thinking that Avilo is going to be playing some sort of weird style of mech that he hasn't scouted yet. So fourth base is a bit greedy from RotterdaM. He's going for some harassment here. Like you're going to be a charge lot warp in and drop into the main base, but Avilo will be able to defend this easily if his units are in position. For now though, Avilo is gearing up for a large push. He's got 3 siege tanks, 2 liberators, and a Raven, making his army very, very scary versus RotterdaM, who just has gateway units, zealots, sentries. If Avilo gets a good position with his siege tanks here, it could be very scary. We see one zealot killing up a scouting SCV for Avilo there. I guess it was just sort of a spotter. We see a Marine get picked off by RotterdaM. I'm not sure, I didn't quite catch if that was a stimmed unit, otherwise RotterdaM might have been tipped off that it's bio, but now we see Avilo moving forward here, picking off the observer, now chasing these Stalkers. He's going for this push versus RotterdaM. Meanwhile, RotterdaM's going into Avilo's main base with these zealots. Going to drop here. There's a good amount of bio that's rallying out for Avilo, so he should be able to clean this up. Liberator dropping in here. RotterdaM warping into all sorts of units here. The Liberator is going to need to focus these Stalkers here. And now Avilo is actually completely pulling back versus this push. This counterattack for RotterdaM got exactly what it needed to do. Avilo possibly making a wrong decision here, choosing to pull back versus this. So Avilo had a very scary push, but RotterdaM bought time here. He's now just going to be able to, he's starting to get out Immortals, which will help. He's just warping in a copious amount of Zealots here. He's up to 16 Zealots, 12 Stalkers now. When you think of Zealots and Stalkers, they're not the best, but they're going to have 2-2 upgrades soon versus Avilo's 1-1. They have charge, they have blink, so these units are not completely useless, but this is still a large amount of bio that's very scary coming out of Avilo here, but it's taking him a long time to get across the map. Meanwhile, RotterdaM might be going for a counterattack into a base trade here. We see the Stalkers and Zealots might actually intercept this army. Losing a Stalker there is RotterdaM. Avilo once again sieging up, though, sort of being pulled out of position here by RotterdaM. Now a fight's actually going to go down. These siege tanks are a bit late to siege, but all the Liberators move up. These Marines are just sort of choked back. All the Zealots collapsing in the top of them. More Zealots moving into RotterdaM. But it seems that Avilo has had enough to push back RotterdaM. RotterdaM trying to take a fight there, but it was quite a good position there for Avilo. I'm not sure the 2-2 had quite finished up for RotterdaM. He's now starting 3-3 anyway. He's got 4 bases, so he may as well spend the money, but he is going to need to warp in more units. He had an Immortal out, but I guess that went down. He's got the Mothership Core, which will help defend. He's getting out a Disruptor, though, which is very important. Disruptors are such a strong unit versus a Terran player. If the Terran player doesn't get great splits, we see RotterdaM moving on, blinking on top of these siege tanks. However, this might be getting a bit rough for him. All the Stalkers go down. There's still Liberators in position. One Photon Overcharge is going to clean up one of the Liberators. The Zealots managing to get on top of the siege tanks, but a large portion of this army is still here. We see a Disruptor moving in, though. It's going to possibly get a great connection on this bio. No, it just kills off one of these units. A large portion of this bio is very weak, though. RotterdaM's in a tough position. He's got an upgrade advantage, so these Zealots are very tough. He's warping in 7 Zealots at a time. He's certainly got the money. His production has taken a bit of a blow, though. These gateways are in fact, the Nexus is gone. Fortunately, he has this 4th base, whereas Avilo is just getting up his 3rd base now. We see this bio is actually harassing the natural of, well, I guess sort of just walking into the natural of RotterdaM here. RotterdaM, though, he's warped in a large amount of Stalkers and Zealots. He's going to come down onto this army. It's still a bit weak. The siege tanks are very weak. And this could actually be a great angle for RotterdaM coming in behind this army, getting on top of these Liberators, going to be able to pick off these siege tanks that are weak. He needs to. One of the Zealots getting on top of them. More bio coming in for Avilo here. The Stalkers focusing down the Liberators, very important. And the Zealots are so tanky. The bio is not killing them off. This Liberator is going to get picked off, and RotterdaM is going to have held this push. We see Avilo still just producing bio here. His production is not the greatest, as he did go for a very late 3rd base, so he hasn't really geared up to that scary Terran production. But he did do damage to RotterdaM there. RotterdaM, though, has the 4th base, which is very important. He might rebuild his 3rd base. We're going to see he's repowering that one gateway that survived. And the 3rd base is on the way for RotterdaM. Now, we actually see RotterdaM, he's playing his sort of style that basically he goes for very quick forge upgrades to make these gateway units useful. Whereas Avilo hasn't even started his 2-2. No armor is on the way. Now they are. So at best, RotterdaM is going to have a 3 or 4 minute upgraded advantage here. A 2 upgraded advantage. Well, 4. He's +2, and this is going to make RotterdaM's units absurdly good versus Avilo's. Avilo's got a supply lead right now. RotterdaM doesn't have the greatest composition, but these upgrades are making it work. And now we even see a Colossus on the way, which is going to be very, very scary. Extended Thermal Lance as well. A Colossus with +3 attack versus low upgrade bio unit. Yeah, the Colossus don't do as much damage as they did years ago in Heart of the Swarm. It's actually been a year since Legacy of the Void was released, so it's sort of, I guess, no need to throw back to that anymore. But the Colossus, yeah, it's still going to be able to do tons of damage with this +3. RotterdaM even getting shield upgrades now. He wants his units to be as tough as possible here. Will also really benefit Archons if he goes into that. Into sort of maybe charge lot Archon Colossus. So, RotterdaM's taking a supply lead right now. Avilo has gotten up a 3rd base. It's a planetary fortress. He's getting up a 4th CC. He's going to try and catch up in this economy. Going out for a drop to catch up. Now, this could actually be a good drop, but there's Zealots, there's Stalkers here. This drop is going to be defended. Avilo's going to move in. He's going to fly over this base, and he's going to need to pull back. Maybe not expecting it to be there. The Stalkers, when they pick off that Medivac, that was only 2 Stalkers and a cannon there. But that is +3 attack Stalkers for you, just picking off that Medivac very, very quickly. We see another drop getting cleaned up. RotterdaM, great defense here. Now, Avilo's getting ship weapons on the way. He's getting out Vikings, a 2nd starport, to deal with these Colossus. And he's got a large amount of siege tanks, so he can't be caught out. Siege tanks will sort of just kill anything, regardless of their upgrades. because they just have such high damage. So if RotterdaM does take a bad fight, he can still be punished by these tanks. And Avilo is heading towards Vikings, but RotterdaM, he's heading towards Storm here. So his scary +3 army is going to have Storm, which is just going to be terrifying for Avilo here. Avilo is down 50 supply, so it's not going the best. A Marine getting cleaned up. Avilo securing a 4th base. I wonder if he'll turn it into a planetary fortress here. Yes, he is. He's going for the 2 planetary fortress for 2 commands, 2 orbital, 2 planetary fortress. He just wants these secure expansions. And that might actually be a good call for Avilo, because versus Zealots, planetary fortresses are very useful. It'll help him secure this position if Avilo is sort of playing defensive here. +1 ship weapons on the way. He's getting out 4 Liberators at a time. This is going to be a large amount of Liberators, which will be incredibly effective versus RotterdaM's just Stalkers. We see another Medivac that's possibly going to get picked off here. Nope, Avilo turns it around. Meanwhile, we see Liberators sieging up this position. Tanks. I would actually like to see another sensor tower for Avilo, just to be fully aware when an attack's coming for RotterdaM. There's just the one in the main base, which is not necessarily very helpful at this time. RotterdaM is getting up a 5th base here. So he expanded very early, so he is needing to secure more bases. His main is mined out, his natural's mined out. His 4th base starting to mine out. His 3rd base starting to mine out, but relatively, he did lose it, so it is going to last a bit longer. Now we see a storm drop from RotterdaM. Now all the Templars were actually picked off there, and now we see an engagement coming out from RotterdaM, but he is going to pull back here knowing that he can't take on these Liberators. A large amount of damage done over all those SUVs, done over those Vikings from those storms though. +2 ship weapons on the way for Avilo. Avilo's getting his +3 attack, so he is catching up in the upgrades here. I would like to see a fusion core and advanced ballistics if he is going to be committing to more Liberators here. If he is going to be playing this defensive style. Now RotterdaM, he's just committing to these Colossus, and I might say that that's not necessarily... He might not be expecting to play Avilo to play full turtle if he is going bio, but Avilo's gonna make that work. He's throwing up missile turrets here. He's getting out more Liberators, Vikings, even Ghosts now. So he is going to have a decent army competition, and now Avilo's actually moved out for a drop triple Medivac here, and he's going to move in. He's even brought 2 siege tanks, so he will be able to drop this, siege up this position, and shut down this 4th base for RotterdaM. This is going to prompt RotterdaM to go for an attack, but Avilo is very defensive here. There's a large amount of Stalkers, but this is a planetary fortress and 4 Liberators. RotterdaM is moving in here. The Liberators are going to shred everything though, but RotterdaM simply just right-clicks on this planetary, these +3 units destroying. Oh, so many storms going down. The Vikings taking a large amount of damage, but they do have upgraded ship weapons, so they are going to take down these Colossus relatively quick. There's a large amount of Vikings here. The Liberators actually cementing this position, and RotterdaM is forced back. Avilo killed off this 4th base, pulling back the rest of its bio to defend here. So Avilo lost a 4th, RotterdaM lost a 4th. Avilo's now actually floating his command center to replace a base here. So RotterdaM is in a bit of a better situation as he secured this other base, even though he lost this one. Losing some production. Avilo's going to have 3-3. RotterdaM committing to more Immortals, I guess, to counteract siege tanks. He's committing to plus ship weapons. He did get a Stargate, I assume? Maybe there is no Stargate, and he's just committing to these ship weapons. There we go, there's the first target. So RotterdaM is going to be committing to this later game Protoss, possibly getting into some Tempest to shut down things like Liberators. Tempest used to work very well versus Liberators, but we haven't seen the games go too late like that in competitive Starcraft play, but they are still an option. They're not as great though ever since they were there. We see these Stalkers cleaning up this drop. Another drop for Avilo though. Funneling these Zealots, and it's actually going to clean them all up. RotterdaM losing all these Zealots, not really going to get anything more. More Zealots coming in, but there is a Colossus to support this time. So this drop is going to be forced back. Avilo getting some work done with these drops. RotterdaM is sort of being contained in his little cluster here. Now, income-wise, Avilo's taking the lead for the first time. Since he's securing the space, he's dropping mules. RotterdaM though still ahead in supply. 4 Immortals is always very scary. Immortals shouldn't be underestimated by anyone. They just deal absurd amounts of damage. They're a good amount of tanky, but Avilo does have Ghosts, so that is very effective versus Protoss units. And now we see another drop for Avilo, forcing RotterdaM to warp and Stalkers to clean this up. The Stargate unpowered, which was actually in the process of making a Void Ray here to help shut down some of these Liberators. Now RotterdaM, he's got good upgrades, but that advantage is no longer really relevant. Avilo's at 3-3. RotterdaM never researched further shield upgrades. He was busy spending his money on other things. So while this game is sort of bizarre, it's sort of a close match actually. We see RotterdaM losing a scouting stalker there. Avilo securing this position, possibly going to float over another base or place down another CC. I guess RotterdaM lost his Twilight Council, and Avilo managed to pick that off, and that is something Terran players love to pick off if they have the opportunity, as Storm can be very punishing if you're not prepared. Avilo having Ghosts though, so he does always have an option to deal with this Protoss army. We see double Warp Prism on the way for RotterdaM. I guess gonna go for some mass harassment. Or just want to shut down this army. They're gonna go and pick up that Stalker when they rally out there. So now we see RotterdaM, he's moving in, possibly trying to get out a good angle, and it looks like he might. There's a Siege Tank, there's a Liberator, but this is a scary amount of Protoss right now. He's up on supply, he blinks forward. That might have been a bit too forward as all the bio was going to come down there, but a Storm can blank at this ramp, and he is going to kill off this command center. EMP is going down for Avilo, but missing the majority of the army. More EMPs need to go down, but the Ghosts are picked off before that. Liberators reseeded to take this position, and it seems RotterdaM is going to be pushed back after bleeding off a large amount of Immortals and a large portion of his army. But he killed that base. Avilo takes the supply lead, but he never rebuilt, I guess, what his original fourth was. So he's having to float over another CC, and now RotterdaM has a significant economy advantage. Avilo, I believe, getting some drop harassment, maybe a Liberator. So RotterdaM doesn't have the most perfect economy, but he has enough to keep him going for now, whereas Avilo is pretty crippled right now. We see not too many Medivacs for Avilo, but Avilo is starting to move in here. He's morphing in more Templar. RotterdaM morphing in more Templar, getting out Archons. Avilo's going to try and take this fight, but this bio is very weak. The 2 Medivacs are trying their best to heal it. The Liberator's shooting a few of the Stalkers. Well, a few of the Zealots. Now we see Avilo is actually pushing forward, but these Archons are finished, and that is so much damage, so much tanking for Avilo. So Avilo is going to be pushed back. He's making more Medivacs here. RotterdaM perpetually researching +1 ship weapons as that cybernetic score was never repowered. I guess a Protoss might not ever really realize that's unpowered. I mean, he can still warp in Stalkers. He can still warp in Adepts if he needed, anything like that. So now we see RotterdaM going for another counterattack. Avilo's in this position. He's got 2 Liberators set up. So with just Archons and a couple of Stalkers, I'm not sure RotterdaM is going to be able to break this front here. The 2 Liberators will be able to get some great damage. Avilo, though, his army is still weaker. The Stalker's looking forward, getting on top of this Liberator. The bio taking a great angle on these Archons here, but these Archons are still alive. They're now all down, though. Well, one of them's still there. The SCV is repairing the command center. RotterdaM trying to pick it off, but I believe Avilo is going to hold on to it, and yes, he does. We see a drop actually coming in, which is helping to pick off some of these Stalkers as they retreat. RotterdaM losing a large amount of his army. That one Stalker floating away there. But this bio is so red here. There's 2 Medivacs for Avilo here. They've got a lot of work cut out for them. He's producing 2 more. He needs to heal up this army. And then he'll be in a decent position army-wise, but economically he's in a tough spot. He can't lift these Planetary Fortress to a new base. So he is just on 2 command centers right now. And it seems that this game is going to be getting better for RotterdaM the longer it goes. RotterdaM securing a 6th base. It's actually absurd on this map if you look at it. How many bases that are just tucked in so close. Like, that's 6 bases. That's just a small piece of the map with so many bases tucked in there. Now we see Avilo getting up a bunker in case RotterdaM attacks, but RotterdaM doesn't need to attack at this point. He can just sit back, do whatever. So now we have 6 Templar for RotterdaM. He's making more Archons. This army is getting very, very scary. Liberators can still be very good for Avilo. He's researching Cloak on his Ghost. This could come into play if he had a large Ghost count, but I believe he just has 2. Great EMPs, though, can help versus Archon Stalkers and Mortals, so Avilo isn't dead, but he's in a tough situation, and I mean, if you're familiar with Avilo, for him to die, it actually takes a great measure here, so there's always a chance he can hang on for a long time. Now we see RotterdaM, I guess he lost his robotic space, so he's building another. I guess that's why he hasn't started making Colossus again. His army for Avilo finally healed up. 1 Ghost on the way, 1 Marauder on the way. Avilo's still not at a great income here. Now we see this Ghost shot something. I wasn't sure what that was. He might have shot his own Marine there. Anyway, so RotterdaM, he's warping in Stalkers. He's trying to secure the space now. Avilo's actually going for a drop, but there's a defensive Templar. RotterdaM doing a great job defending that base. I believe he lost a worker or 2, but this Medivac is just sitting there, and every unit for Avilo matters right now in such a low econ, but apparently RotterdaM busy with another attack. Avilo goes and resets that drop. Very well done by Avilo here. Getting some damage done, drawing RotterdaM out of position here. He's going to focus down probes and then want to get out of here, or he might just sacrifice all these Marines. He picks off. So RotterdaM taking a blow to his economy, as he does have 50 workers, but he is starting to mine out these bases. He's really got 1 full base and then another base that's not fully saturated here. And we actually saw this Cloaked Ghost for Avilo picking off all but 1 of the Templar here, but now there's 2 Colossus. There's 2 Archons on the way. This is a very terrifying army for RotterdaM. Avilo might have to try and base trade or something if he wants a chance, but there's so many bases for RotterdaM, so to actually base trade will be a challenge. 1 Liberator on the way. Liberators are very important for Avilo right now. The Templar are there. Avilo trying to move forward to pick them off. He gets an EMP on some of them. They're transforming into an Archon with feedback on one of the Ghosts. Feedback on another of the Ghosts as it tries to snipe. Avilo's army is very clumped up right now. There's the Stalkers. There's the Archon. Avilo has the mobility. Actually picking off one of the Colossus as it walks too far forward here. Oracle goes down after it gets down a Revelation. Avilo's making it work with this army. He's getting out Vikings now, but this is still this is a Protoss death ball right here for RotterdaM. He's got out these Templar, he's got out these Colossus, so many Archons, and Avilo can really only just try and kite to the best of his ability. Broken race, there we are. Avilo in quite a tough situation here. RotterdaM just pushing forward here. He's getting his economy. It's not fantastic, but it's still just chugging along here. He's got this scary army. Avilo in a tough situation. So we have 2 Vikings coming out for Avilo, but he eats a massive storm there. He finally did build some Medivacs though, so he is able to sort of heal this army up. But this 1 base for Avilo is being harassed, and that really is the 1 base for Avilo. These 2 Vikings shooting at the Colossus, but they are going down. So now another storm goes down in this army. Avilo running right through it. So many Colossus here, so much storm. These Archons, this is just splash heaven for the Colossus. And RotterdaM takes the game there. So that was one interesting game. They're sort of different. It was, as I said at the start, it was surprisingly close for a portion of that game there. And ultimately RotterdaM takes the game. Avilo not making the bioplay work. Maybe he should try and go back to figuring out how mech will work. So regardless, if you guys have enjoyed the cast, feel free to leave any feedback, feel free to leave a like, or feel free to subscribe, as I'm always putting out more StarCraft 2 content. I'm not usually casting games like this. I usually cast professional replays from tournaments, but games like this are always fun to watch. So I shall see you guys next time.